I would say that did it. Thank you very much. Good morning, afternoon, wherever you're joining us from, everyone. Thank you very much. On behalf of the National Child Passenger Safety Board, thank you for joining us for the CEU webinar, Everything You Wanted to Know About Safety Recalls. My name is James Fitzpatrick. I'm the Community Engagement Representative on the National Child Passenger Safety Board, and thrilled to be here with everyone today. Today's speaker is Claudia Covell. Claudia is an employee of the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. She works in the Enforcement Department Office of Vehicle Safety Compliance, working on the compliance programs pertaining to car seats, as well as other regulated motor vehicle equipment. We do have time planned at the end for questions, so if you could drop those into the box, that would be fantastic. A couple of things that we do not need from you guys. We do not need you to enter your name into the question box or the other box. Your attendance is automatically recorded, so that's not needed. You also do not need to ask Kendra for an event ID after this webinar. Because it's a webinar, you will not be asked for it, so please don't send her 400 messages asking for an event ID for this one. As a reminder, attendees are requested to not participate in this webinar if you are operating a motor vehicle. The webinar will be recorded and you can listen to the recording when you are safely arrive at your destination. The recording will be posted to carseateducation.org within 1 to 2 business days. This is a CEU presentation, so for our technicians in attendance, you must be on for at least 45 minutes to receive the credit for the CEU. Proof of attendance will be emailed 24 hours after the webinar. So please join me in welcoming Claudia.
Thank you, James. Do I?
Yeah, go ahead and reshare your screen.
Share my screen. Okay, let's see here.
Perfect.
Okay, great. Thank you again, James. We're going to have a course. The title's Everything You Wanted to Know About Safety Recalls. And there we go. The course is specific to car seats and designed to provide CPSTs with an overview of NHTSA's safety recalls process, as well as the important role that you can play in that process. What the course does not do is provide all of the legal obligations concerning filing, conducting, or reporting on safety recalls as required by regulations administered by NHTSA. So we're going to start off by covering some terms that will be used in today's course. Then we will hit some highlights of the Safety Act. We will then talk about how the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards play into the process. And then I'll go over NHTSA's enforcement team and how we're organized and what our main roles are. Then we will cover the meat of the presentation. We'll go over the recalls and the goals, when they're required, how they get filed, how you can stay informed about recalls, and some important things that we have when we post recalls. Following that, we will cover the importance of car seat registration and cover several scenarios that you might encounter in your work, how to navigate those and support families in getting their recalls fixed. And if you have any safety concerns, how to file VOQs. We'll end the course today covering some information available on NHTSA's website that you might find useful. Okay, so let's start off with some key terms. So NHTSA stands for the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. You'll probably hear me say NHTSA frequently. And the other acronym, FMVSS, stands for Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards. I will also be using the term car seat, which is the commonly used term for child restraint system. So child restraint system is the term that's in the regulations. And I will do my best to stick with the phrase car seat today. Regulation or CRS or child restraint system is the term we typically use when we talk about car seats at work. So please forgive me if I intermix the two different terms. And then two key terms, non-compliance and defect, are things that we will talk about as we get into the presentation. What's important to know is that a non-compliance is a failure of a regulated car seat to comply with a requirement in one of the federal motor vehicle safety standards that pertain to car seats, either FMVSS number 213, 213A, or 213B. Defect, on the other hand, is the aspect of the design or manufacture of a car seat that results in an unreasonable risk to safety. So we will talk about non-compliance and defect several times during this course. So Title 49 of US Code Chapter 301 establishes the legislation pertaining to the Motor Vehicle Safety Act. And in this presentation, we're going to call that the Safety Act. And one of the most important things about that is to understand that the law establishes self-certification process. What self-certification means is that manufacturers are required to certify themselves that every product they manufacture for sale, offer for sale, sell, import, or introduce in interstate commerce complies with all applicable regulations. Self-certification applies certainly to car seats, but also to other regulated products that NHTSA oversees. For car seats, as I mentioned previously, the FMVSS are numbers 213, 213A, and 213B. Because the law establishes a self-certification process, that means that neither the Department of Transportation nor NHTSA approves any product. What NHTSA does is we conduct inspections or investigations to enforce the standards. The Safety Act also says that manufacturers, and by manufacturers, that includes both the fabricating manufacturers and importers, are subject to recall requirements. 213 is somewhat unique in that it permits distributors to act as manufacturers if they choose to put their name on the car seat. But once they do that, then they are also subject to the recall requirements. The Safety Act also outlines the provisions concerning recalls. So how do FMVSS fit into the process? Well, NHTSA is a regulatory agency within the Department of Transportation. It's our responsibility to establish minimum safety standards. And the FMVSS pertaining to car seats include requirements for their performance, labeling, registration cards, printed instructions, and other things. Performance requirements for car seats include frontal impact testing, side impact testing, and other testing on the webbing and buckles. The webbing and buckle testing occurs in the test labs. So, as we touched on earlier, there are different reasons that car seats might be considered unsafe. Those are called non-compliances or defects. NHTSA's enforcement team is organized into two sub-teams. One handles compliance issues, the other handles issues of defects. I work in the compliance area, and one of the ways that we help enforce the standards is to test and investigate car seats sold in the US. We do this as a means to audit manufacturer certification because manufacturers are required to self-certify every single product that they sell. Our objective is to identify car seats that may not comply with 213, 213A, or 213B. What's important to remember is that not every car seat is tested by NHTSA. The defects team investigates if car seats sold in the US have defects. Defects are areas that fall outside of the FMVSS. A product can pass the compliance requirements, but still have a defect. So a recall can be required if there is either a non-compliance or a defect, and the goals of the recall in either case are the same. Primarily, we want to notify the public that a product is unsafe, either because it didn't meet the minimum standard or because during its use and lifetime, we learned that there is a potential safety issue that presents an unreasonable risk to the public. In addition to notifying the public that a product is unsafe, our goal is to remove unsafe products from use. This happens because manufacturers who conduct recalls need to repair or replace the unsafe products with a safe product. If they choose not to repair or replace the item, they have an option to refund the consumer. These three options are how a manufacturer remedies a non-compliance or defect. It's the manufacturer's option, not the consumer's option, whether the product will be repaired, replaced, or the consumer will receive a refund. Finally, we also aim to prevent the sale of additional unsafe products. So once a product is recalled, manufacturers no longer allowed to release the additional products from their control. So when are safety recalls required? Well, I want to emphasize that most car seats certified and sold in the United States are safe. The vast majority are. However, sometimes a recall is required if, as we discussed, the seat does not meet the minimum safety standards established by the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standard 213, 213A, or 213B in the case of car seats. The other reason the recall is required is if it has a defect that creates the unreasonable risk to safety. Either recall is a safety issue and should be treated as such. The recalls can occur either because of information that NHTSA presents to the manufacturer or information the manufacturer obtains on its own. So how do manufacturers file recalls? Well, recalls are typically initiated when a manufacturer files a safety recall report. We call this a Part 573. It's called a Part 573 because the instructions on how to file and what the requirements are found in 49 CFR Part 573. CFR is the Code of Federal Regulations. So NHTSA manufacturers file the Part 573 report using NHTSA's recall portal. NHTSA then reviews the filing and follows up with the manufacturer if necessary. When the report is ready, the recall is then published on NHTSA.gov. So, wanted to cover a few areas about how you as a CPST can stay informed about recalls. It's my understanding that when many of you do safety car seat checks, that you have a list of recalled car seats, and that's a good resource. But NHTSA also has some resources that are publicly available for free to everyone, and we encourage you to also use these tools if they're helpful. One of the tools is NHTSA's Safer Car app. And on this screen, you see some screenshots that'll walk us through how the app works. So this, when you launch the app typically from your phone, you will see a screen with 4 icons on it. The upper right icon is the car seat icon, and you can select that. That will take you to a second screen where you can enter the brand name or model of a specific car seat that you're curious if it has a recall or not. That'll take you to this third screen. And if you start entering the name of a brand or model, it'll populate a drop-down menu. Only the brands and models that are in the database will actually populate this. So if you're looking for a brand or model that does not have any hits, it won't show up in the list. If you find what you're looking for and you select on it, that'll take you to this fourth screen. And what it does is it'll show you if there's a recall. And if you want more information, that'll take you to a link on NHTSA's website. So that's the Safer Car app. Second tool that you could use to help stay informed about recalls is subscribing to NHTSA's recall database. You can go to subscribe at nhta.gov/recalls and then select the alerts link. There, you will register your email address. Soon after you register your email address, you will receive an email with links that'll let you set up your subscription preferences. And you can subscribe for car seats, or you can subscribe for all the recalls, whatever you prefer. Then you will start receiving emails from NHTSA that include new information. So anytime a new recall is filed, if you've subscribed to the criteria that meets the recall, then you'll be notified. And the third tool that you can use is just going straight to the nhta.gov/recalls website. We're going to go through that process today and talk about a few things that may be useful when you're looking up recalls. So the nhta.gov/recalls landing page looks something like this. And it'll take you to a screen where you have 4 different categories of recalls: vehicle, car seat, tire, and equipment. Equipment includes anything other than vehicle, car seat, and tires. It's a catch-all category. But for today's course, we're going to focus on the car seat feature. So again, when you select that, you have a search box that you enter your brand name or model of the specific car seat you're interested in learning more information about. By way of example, I typed in baby trend hybrid 3-in-1, and I got a hit, and this is the landing page for that hit. Couple tips. It's important to try to search on the term you're looking for using a couple different approaches. So for example, baby trend could possibly be 1 word or 2 words. The database basically depends on how the information is entered. It can be entered by manufacturers or NHTSA staff. So depending on who entered it, you might want to try a couple different search tools like hybrid 3-in-1 with the dashes there would pull up this page. Right at the top of this page, it gives you a quick summary. So for this product, I can see there's 1 recall 0 investigations, and 44 complaints. So to dig a little deeper, I look down at the bottom of the page and I see that there's 4 tabs. I can search on all the complaints. I can go straight to recalls. If there were investigations, I could check those out, and also other manufacturer communications. So I'm going to click on recalls, and that's going to pull up the recall specific to the Baby Trend Hybrid 3-in-1 in this example. There's a lot of valuable information on this page. Starts off with the brand and model name, and a high-level summary of what occurred. So in this case, we see it's child seat webbing may fail, FMVSS 213 and 209. So 209 is referenced in 213. And that's why it's there. And here, because it fails the FMVSS, we understand that this is an issue of non-compliance as opposed to a defect. Another piece of important information on this page is the NHTSA campaign number. That's a unique number assigned to each recall. If you happen to know that number and you type it into the NHTSA.gov search tool, it'll take you straight to this page. It's not necessary to know that, but if you happen to know it, it just is a quick shortcut. On this page, we also see the manufacturer, in this case, Baby Trend, and a summary of the issue. So this is a pretty high-level summary. It's created based on the information the manufacturer submits when they file their Part 573. And that appears here under summary, as well as the remedy. So this is again, a summary of the remedy. It provides the key information that you may need if you're looking quickly. But I want to point out at the bottom of this page is a link. It says 12 associated documents. And it's good if you want an in-depth perspective of what the recall concerns and perhaps additional information about the remedy. It's good to click on the associated documents, because there you will see attachments that include the Part 573, which is the safety recall report that the manufacturer files. And that will have much more detail than what we can show on the initial web page. It includes things like the production dates for the affected car seats. And it'll probably go into more detail about the remedy. So that's a good place to look on the NHTSA website if you're interested in a specific recall. So after the recall is filed with NHTSA, the manufacturer will send registered owners a recall notification letter by first-class mail. They may also notify owners in other ways, like email or perhaps phone calls. They have the option to provide notification in additional ways, but at a minimum, they will be sending a recall notification letter by first-class mail. Now, as we touched on earlier, the manufacturers will provide a safe, free, and effective remedy or refund. What's really important to remember is that car seat recalls never expire. So if you ever find a car seat in the field that had a recall, and the recall's old, still attempt to get the remedy because the car seat recall never expires. One of the key phrases that I want to point out on this slide that'll lead us to the next slide is that manufacturers will send registered owners a recall notification letter. So that brings us to the importance of car seat registration. As a CPST, one of the most important things you can do to support families in ensuring they will be notified in the event of a recall is to reinforce the need to register their car seats. They can do this by several means. A paper registration card is required to be attached to every new car seat. Most manufacturers offer electronic registration on their website as well. 213B, which is the new final rule that covers the frontal impact requirements, as well as other requirements for car seats, is going to allow manufacturers to begin utilizing new methods to facilitate registration. For example, they may include a QR code where the consumer can just scan it and that'll take them straight to the registration page. These won't be required, but they will be allowed. So, can't emphasize enough the importance of car seat registration. NHTSA also has on its website a page dedicated to registering car seats. On this page, it reinforces the need to register, but also includes in the bottom left some links to various manufacturers' registration pages. This list is not all inclusive, but it's a good resource. Otherwise, you know, the registration information, if electronic registration is optional, that information will be in the car seat instructions. Should also be on the label on the car seat. So and probably Googling it would get you there as well. There's just so many different options for registering car seats that really the industry and it's promoting car seat registration as much as possible. So what happens when you're in the field and you're facing some scenarios that are related to recalls? What should we do about that? Well, the first step is to ensure the car seat is covered by a specific recall using the model number and date of manufacture from the car seat label. You can take this information, and if you have a copy of the 573 or a list of recalls, compare the information on the actual car seat with that information to see if the specific car seat that you're looking at is included in the recall. It's not uncommon that car seats are recalled based on a lot or a manufacture date. So two car seats that can have the same model number might or might not be covered under a single recall. Second option is to call the manufacturer, and they will help walk you through the process to check if the product that you're looking at based on the model number, typically in the date of manufacture, are covered by any recalls that they have filed. And third, you can always go back to the NHTSA website, as we discussed previously, go down to the attachment section of a specific recall page and pull up the 573, comparing the information publicly available to the car seat that you are working with. If it's covered by a recall, we advise that you discuss the problem and risks stated in the recall and the manufacturer's remedy with the family. In some cases, manufacturers instruct consumers to continue to use the recalled seat until a remedy can be obtained. If they do that, it's okay to encourage the family to take that option. What's what's most important is that you clearly explain to the families what the recall is, what the risks are, and help them make their own decisions based on what is safe and practical for their specific use. Some families may have a spare car seat that they can use as an interim seat while they're getting their remedy implemented. Others may not. Depending on the nature of the safety issue, it very well could be that using the seat is an okay option until the remedy can arrive. Okay, so what if a family that you're working with shows up and they think they have a seat that may have been recalled? One of the things to ask them is if they received an owner notification letter. If they did, we encourage you to review the instructions on the letter with the caregiver and follow through on the steps, the detailed steps in that letter. If they didn't, which could occur if they weren't, if they hadn't registered their car seat, or they didn't realize that they would be getting something in the mail, so they didn't pay close attention. Then we ask that you educate the caregiver to call the manufacturer to receive the remedy. It's important to help them understand how to find the manufacturer's phone number and locate the date of manufacture and model number on the product. This information should be on the product and in the instruction manuals. If a family has received the remedy, then please help them follow the instructions to remedy the product that they own. In some cases, depending on what was recalled, the remedy is implemented by the caregivers themselves. And in other cases, if a seat needs to be replaced completely, then it needs to go back to the manufacturer. But whatever the instructions included in the notification letter or that you receive when you talk to the manufacturer, follow those instructions, because every recall is a case-by-case basis. If there are instructions regarding returning or destroying a recalled product, please follow those. That information needs to be reported back to NHTSA to demonstrate the process is working. And if you think that you're not getting a good response from a manufacturer and you're attempting to remedy the recall product, if you have problems, we encourage you to file a complaint with NHTSA. That process we're going to talk about in a couple slides. It's the same process as filing a safety complaint. So if you know you have a recall product and you're not getting the help you need, you can also file a complaint for that. So filing safety complaints. Safety complaints are called VOQs. They originally were called vehicle owner questionnaires, but VOQs are not limited to vehicles. So that's just the acronym that's stuck around. If you come across a car seat that you believe is unsafe, please gather as much documentation as you possibly can. This documentation can include things like receipts, emails, packaging slips, pictures of the restraint, of the labels, CPST seat check documentation, and if possible, videos. Any information that you can gather, the caregiver can gather, will be helpful when you file your complaint. What we recommend is that both the caregivers and the CPSTs file a complaint with NHTSA.gov. When you go to the NHTSA.gov site, it's right, file a safety complaint. That's one of the first things that you'll see. When you file the complaint, please include all the documentation that you've gathered. And if we're going to talk about in a minute, sharing the information with the manufacturer. But if the manufacturer does not replace the seat, NHTSA may be interested in asking for it at a later point in time. So if at all possible, please save the seat. educate the parents to call the manufacturer and ask, does the issue fall under warranty? Would the manufacturer like the seat back for an inspection? Will the manufacturer send a replacement? These are some of the questions that will help the parent decide what steps they're going to take. And if the manufacturer does need the seat back, please provide them copies of the documentation so that they can conduct their own investigation and try to get to the bottom of the issue. BOQs filed by citizens, including CPSTs, play an important role in NHTSA's ability to monitor safety defects and compliance concerns in the marketplace. Please file a VOQ even if you contact the manufacturer and they satisfy your concern. VOQs can be filed by calling our number, the 800 numbers right there on the slide, or by going online and filing VOQ electronically. If you do file online or call, it's important to have the manufacturer, make, model, and date of manufacture, as well as any documentation that you've collected regarding your complaint. Every single VOQ gets read by someone at NHTSA. VOQs might lead us to investigate an issue. We may reach out to individuals who filed the VOQ to gather more information. We may contact a manufacturer. We may choose to test a product or take other action. So rest assured, we do read every VOQ and sort them out to the offices that would be most able to handle them. Okay, with that, I'm going to leave you with some other information available on the NHTSA.gov website that you might find useful. The first link are links to manufacturers' pages for registration. There's also a car seat inspection station locator. And we have several videos and installation instructions just on general car seat installation. These aren't specific to any product, but just in general that may be useful to you or caregivers that have questions. And we have a link to our car seat recommendations for children. That's the information, and I'm happy to take questions.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Claudia. So if you haven't already, folks, if you could drop your questions into the Q&A box, and we will take a few moments to answer those. We do have one already, Claudia, and I know you addressed a little bit, but we'll give you a chance to do it again. And the question is, if we had a car seat that had a recall in 2014, but this seat was manufactured in 2020, does that mean the seat isn't good?
So if the recall was conducted in 2014 and the seat was manufactured in 2020, well, that means that the seat could not have been covered by the recall because the recall would have been for seats that were in the marketplace no later than 2014. So what would have happened is if it's the same model, the manufacturer would have corrected the problem before they continued to sell the seats. So that is a great question, and explains why it's important to check the affected manufacturer dates on recalls when trying to decide if a product's included in the scope of a recall.
Excellent. Don't be shy, friends. If you have other questions, let's see them. There we go. So what happens with either counterfeit or non-compliant seats that we see popping up on the market? Is NHTSA in charge of that?
Okay, great question. So I'll talk a little bit about counterfeit and non-compliant. So I'm glad the person asking the question used both terms. So non-compliant is a seat that does not comply with an FMVSS. And so those have been certified by a manufacturer, and we learn either through our investigation or through the manufacturer's internal investigation that the product did not comply. Counterfeit, on the other hand, can mean a couple things. So technically, it's a product that kind of like sometimes on the street you see these fancy watches that have names on them that aren't exactly the name that you think it is. A very high-end watch, for example. And so counterfeit technically means that, you know, somebody is knocking off a product and trying to steal their intellectual property. And those products, if that happens, there's another agency called stopfakes.org that you can refer the product to. However, the term counterfeit colloquially is often used to mean a product that like looks like a certified product, but isn't trying to impersonate the product necessarily in terms of the IP. Or sometimes people refer to counterfeit products as products that aren't certified and should never have entered the US to begin with. So they could perhaps be manufactured for a different market like Europe that has different regulations, or maybe just through the you know, the World Wide Web being offered for sale, not even made to any standards. They're just being offered for sale, and they really don't even try to meet any minimum safety standards. So in terms of those products, which I'm going to call not certified for use in the United States, we are aware of that, and we are constantly trying to fight that battle here in NHTSA. It is part of the work that my office handles. The biggest challenge, however, is finding responsible entities. With the internet, it's, you know, the world, you know, kind of like the Wild West out there. So like anybody can sell anything, but figuring out who they are and then holding them accountable is a challenge for us. So what we recommend is that people do, you know, as a consumer, try your best to protect yourself. Buy from reputable companies, do your research, look for the certification label. There is a required statement on child restraints that the seat conforms to the FMVSS for it to be, that's the indication to consumers that the manufacturer has done their due diligence and certified the product to the appropriate FMVSS. Is that
Great.
sufficient?
I think so. We got a couple more questions for you, Claudia. From Mary, would a non-compliant seat show up in the recalls? If not, how do we know they are non-compliant?
Absolutely. Non-compliant and defective seats will be required, or, you know, both of them can be covered by a recall. In fact, the example that we gave in today's course said that the product doesn't comply with FMVSS 213 and 209. And that's a cue to us that that was a compliance issue. As a consumer, either one is a safety issue. So while I'm helping the CPSTs understand the difference, as a consumer, either reason that a recall is filed shouldn't make a difference. They should get their product remedied, replaced, or get their refund, depending on what the manufacturer offers. If, however, say there's an egregiously non-compliant product, like one that we kind of refer to as counterfeit, for example, the challenge is that retailers are not subject to recall responsibility. So if you recall the early part of the presentation, manufacturers and importers are subject to recalls. Retailers, however, are not. And therefore, I have worked with my team in the past to get a recall conducted by a retailer. But unfortunately, that is probably an exception to the rule. In most cases, retailers will not file recalls. And that goes back to the message, which it's really important to be an informed consumer. Stick with companies that manufacture certified goods in the United States. And look for that certification statement on the products.
Great. I think it's always good to just kind of add in here as well, Claudia, that manufacturers and NHTSA and government agencies work very closely together. There are numerous reporting requirements that manufacturers go through. So I think there's a bit of a misconception that NHTSA and manufacturers don't talk to each other, that they don't like each other. And I think it's just important for techs to understand that there's a lot of conversation and there's a lot of reporting that's done to make sure that everyone's on the same page.
Absolutely. With the responsible manufacturers, we have continuous working relationships, and I think we're all on the side of safety. Responsible manufacturers, as much as NHTSA, don't like to see egregiously not unsafe products in the marketplace, because we all care about child passengers, and we want what's best for them. So
Absolutely.
thanks.
We have a couple more questions for you. So from Elizabeth, what do we do if we come across a Temu car seat that is non-compliant?
So if you come across any seat that is not manufactured for use, properly manufactured and certified for use in the United States, I would make sure the parents understand, and if you have the means to give them a compliant seat in place of the non-compliant seat, I would encourage you to do that, because I've seen so many seats that are not certified. I can't even begin to tell you.
Did we maybe lose Claudia?
Yeah, she's frozen on my side. I was just getting ready to ask.
Yep, she's frozen on mine too. So give her a second, see if she's able to come back from this.
We can always finish up the last couple slides and then come back to her if she comes back. So let me get them up.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kendra. Technology, it's our friend, everybody.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. So again, thank you everyone for joining today. Hopefully we are able to get Claudia back for the last couple of questions, but if not, we've got a couple of closing announcements. So I hope that you are enjoying the NHTSA, oh my God, I can't speak today, I'm sorry, the National Child Passenger Safety Board webinar series. We are having fun delivering them. Join us in November for the 2024 CPST certification training update for technicians, and in December we have CEU webinar on CPS hot topics. Visit cpsboard.org/webinars to register, or you can scan the QR code on your screen. The webinar recording will be posted to carseateducation.org within 1 to 2 days. For the child passenger safety technicians in attendance, the presentation qualifies for 1 CEU. Proof of attendance will be emailed 24 hours after the webinar. Again, you do not need to ask Kendra for event IDs or other things. This is a webinar. You won't be asked for it. You're good. You must enter the webinar information into your profile at cert.safekids.org to receive the CEU certification for recertification. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope everyone has a safe day, and thank you for all you do to keep child passengers and their families safe. I'm not seeing Claudia come back, so
No, we'll give her a second, see if she logs back on. I'll check my email real quick and see if she sent me a message.
we do have a question. If we could put the QR code back up for a moment, Kendra.
Yeah, for the webinars.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you. I always like to take a moment to thank Kendra. She keeps all of this running and all of us in line. So thank you again for all you do, Kendra, even when you're not
Thank
feeling
you.
well.
At least I'm home in my little bubble. And then all of these webinars can be found at cpsboard.org/webinars. And I'm just going to switch screens real quick to see if Claudia got back. Not yet. She may have dropped. So we had one more question in the box. So Elizabeth, I can forward that question to Claudia. I could email it to her if you want. If you just want to put your email in the question box, that'd be the fastest way to get back to you. Standalin, I don't understand your question. If you want to specify, and no, you don't need to do anything extra. You just need to enter it into your profile, the name, the date, and it's already been registered with Safe Kids for your CEU. Elizabeth, I'll copy you on that email when I send it. And then I just had an email sent for credit. If you were in the webinar for the entire time, you will get an email saying that you attended the webinar and you get 1 CEU. The email comes 24 hours tomorrow automatically by Zoom.
I think the clarification question, Kendra, was when the information regarding these trainings are sent out, does it get sent out to all certified car seat technicians?
So as the National Child Passenger Safety Board, we do not send out mass emails to all of the technicians, but we do post them on cpsboard.org/webinars, and we also post them heavily on our social media channel. So they're always found in the same spot. We just don't email them out. And we try to post them at least 4 to 6 weeks in advance.
I don't think we're getting Claudia back, so
I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.
thank you very much. Thank you for improvising.